I'm going to start by saying this. You are supposed to be healthy. It is your right as a living entity to be healthy. It is not some above and beyond, far to reach place. It is the bare minimum, the baseline of what it means to be alive. Now, there's a countless number of things that take us out of that make us unhealthy, that put us below that bare minimum. And there's not really a universal or standard threshold for that. It's just the sense of well-being, of what you ought to be. And that will mean different things for different people. But at the core of this, of health and life and well-being, is microorganisms, the microbiota of our bodies and environments. You might hear this a lot in this topic, this idea that there's more microbial cells than human cells in us. And this is kind of a misnomer because they are a fundamental part of who you are and who you become, your individuation. They are part of your subjective experience of life. Microorganisms are active agents. They're active persons and entities in our body that move between us and environments. Amidst that life, between the work that they do and the goals that they have and the actions that they take, they leave behind signs and omens. There's features and functions and little details that indicate their presence and what they're doing. One example may be you wake up in the morning and your mouth is dry and it feels kind of tacky. There's a general sense that your mouth feels off. Well, there's a specific reason for that, and you can learn those reasons and you can navigate what to do about those reasons. They have life cycles and they perform activities, and especially overnight, in terms of the mouth, they will usually grow in great numbers. The microbes that we consider bad or harmful are ones that may attack certain parts of the body or produce chemicals that damage parts of the body, like your enamel or gums or tongue. So in that case, it would be unwise to eat junk food that would only increase those cultures living in your mouth. It would make them more active, it gives them more food, and allows them to live and grow in stronger quantities. You could eat something that helps to destroy those active cultures, or at least swoosh some water around your mouth and spit and help to clean it out. The mentality of modern maintenance tends to be sanitize, antibiotics, purge, and cleanse everything. If your skin feels nice and you don't feel grimy or anything like that, why would you shower and just remove the good microorganisms that are helping to sustain that? People will shower twice a day and they wonder why they need to keep showering. It feels like they can never get clean. Well, it's because you're removing all the things that help you stay clean. But also recognizing that there are times when you do need to clean yourself because there is an overgrowth of microorganisms which are harmful. So the point of this is understanding when something is good and not destroying it because you're in a routine, and also recognizing what the bad is, what it means, and how to counter it. In many ways, you're psychoanalyzing yourself and your environment for different microbial activity. Our noses alone can smell 1 trillion different scents, and we can memorize tens of thousands of them. And that's more than enough to grasp your environment. This kind of odor indicates this kind of microorganism, or this kind of fungus, or this kind of bacteria. We also have a very elaborate immune system. It's a detection system, and it tells you when there's threats. Those threats are specific entities, and so you can take measures in supporting that immune function. If you're feeling a cold come on, don't eat something that is then going to support the growth of microorganisms which produce negative chemicals in the body. What's good and bad don't exist outside of our relativistic terms. So there's a sense of learning, of being able to discern the goals, the objectives, and the reasons behind things, specifically for these living entities, these living organisms. Their effects on your mind and how you're feeling and your emotions and your cognition and behaviors and idiosyncrasies and just your overall sense of well-being. They influence all of those things. They're a part of all of those things because those are cumulative functions of your entire individuation. One of the great limitations of modern medicine and microbiology is it records information in a lab setting. This has its uses, but it doesn't indicate how the microorganism is going to affect your life and how it's going to move through your body. In fact, the whole reason why we can isolate a microorganism in a lab and associate that with a disease is because a number of patients present certain kinds of symptoms. It's the patient which informs the medical professionals of the nature and the kind of microorganism and the kind of effects these microorganisms, these entities, are having on them. Yet this heuristic experience of an individual is discounted beyond the visible symptoms that a doctor or a medical researcher can examine. So areas of your life beyond just health and disease are not accounted for in the understanding of a microorganism. Part of this problem comes from the taxonomy of microorganisms. We name them based off of the Latin scientific name, but we don't do that for other plants and animals except in academic settings. But life doesn't exist in academic settings. It exists in experience and stories and your movement through reality. Microbiology doesn't need to start from the ground up. We have thousands of years of folklore, of religion, of cultural traditions, and fantasy thinking that has explored and explained microbes in various ways. Many folk creatures from various cultural traditions, they describe these invisible entities that move between things, that can cause mischief, possession, that can lead to distress, disease, or fortune and well-being. They can hinder and help, and sometimes they interact with each other, and other times they interact with other animals or other parts of the environment or other objects in the house. These are perfect descriptions of microorganisms, only it's imagined in ways that give the microorganism agency and understands there is a dynamic relationship between them and people and between their own life and goals. Even the depictions and descriptions of these folk creatures shouldn't necessarily be taken literal in that that's what the microorganism looks like, but that could be the nature of the microorganism, how it feels, how it makes you feel, the kind of aggression or the stance that the microorganism takes. It's also not necessarily directly correlating to a specific taxonomy of microorganism, but rather the general feel or the general goal or effect that a culture of microorganisms could have. There could be a part of your house where in folk setting they would say that there's a duende that lives there or a yokai or something of the sort. And in that part of the house, whenever you go there, you seem to misplace things or you seem to have some sort of brain fog or confusion. And it just tends to be this zone or area that's occupied by this invisible spirit. There could be certain microbial cultures that exist in that corner or that room in the house, and this leads to those effects on you, as well as your imagination of those effects. And so that the imagination is the part where the invisible, the subconscious, integrates with the conscious. And this is how humans understand their own bodies, their own microbiota, and the environmental microbiota. And this is how it has played out for thousands and thousands of years. As I said in the beginning, there's never going to be this one product or this one cure-all because there's different people and there's different regions and there's different microbes and they may do different things in different people. So for maintenance and health, you have to learn how to understand the purpose and the goals and the knowledge and the interactions and experiences that are being shared or being given or being felt, the stories between you and these microbes and your environment and the collective and the accumulative experiences. Microbiology is put into this privileged position where only special people with special equipment can ever know or tell you anything about them. They can't tell you of your subjective experiences. They can only look at a lab in a microscope where nothing actually affects anything. It's just isolated in a petri dish. As I've said, there's use in that because you can correlate that to patient experiences, to the symptoms in patients. There's huge limitations in that. And the flaws are coming through in the form of our declining health, medical costs, and just a lack of progress in making people feel at their normal baseline they're supposed to be, what's called healthy. The way out of that, the way to move forward is drawing from these cultural traditions, these folklore, these religious practices, these fantasy thinking that humans have employed to navigate and understand how to be healthy in the microbiota.